All right, then, let's go underground. You don't have to. You could just buy a book instead. It's called London Underground, Symmetry and Imperfections, the Tube Mapper Project. And the title about symmetry is really interesting because an awful lot of the pictures capture a form of symmetry, a form of... the man who's taken the pictures needs to explain it because I think it's a fantastic book. And it's by Luke Agbaimoni. He's the man who's carrying out the Tube Mapper Project and he's on the line now. Hello, Luke.
Hello, Robert. Good morning to you.
And good morning to you too. So first of all, let's step back a bit. How long have you been doing this project?
Oh, it's been going on since, I'd say, the birth of my child, for about 8 or 9 years. I used to take pictures of nightscapes and cityscapes, but I realised that I was running out of time to have free time to do artistic photography, and realised that I could capture moments on my way to work and on my way home, and that's kind of how the project began.
But it's become much bigger than that, isn't it? It has been an attempt to kind of chronicle this almost unknowable network of trains.
Yes, it's become a way of slowly capturing moments. For me, there's no rush because sometimes some stations look better during the sunlight, sunset, during rainy days or something like that. And I enjoy trying to depict each station in their glory. I get sent messages on social media, on Instagram and stuff. People say, "Oh, you should see the view of this station here," or "I love the tiles in this station," and that's kind of how the project has sort of begun. I didn't realise the absolute love of the London Underground. It's basically a living and breathing museum that we have the pleasure to be able to navigate, with architecture sort of stemming from the 1860s to, completely modern.
I mean, it is. It's kind of a love letter to the London Underground and its design and its look and its feel and it's also it's brief. It's that sliding doors thing, isn't it? It's brief moments in people's lives as well.
Yes, that's one of the beauties of the Underground. The Underground serves 5 million daily users. It's the heartbeat of the city. So many of us have moments where we've met people briefly, love losses, great news, disputes, but all in these stations, which are kind of timeless because they look the same. The Underground keeps them the same. And that's why I enjoy taking photographs and sharing these with people, because you'll get messages from people saying, "That's where I used to walk down this when I was a kid, and it looks exactly the same." Well, maybe some new signs or something. And but it brings back memories and feelings, and also visual memories. Because if it's 5 million daily users, that's 5 million people sharing the same optical stimulation, which I find absolutely fascinating.
Are these all? Do you set any of them up, or are they all chance encounters?
A bit of both, I'd say. Yeah. So a lot of images occur from chance, so as you're sort of wandering around. But in terms of, if we focus on a symmetry, which this book is more about, the symmetry game sort of started as I was photographing images. I suddenly started to capture things symmetrically, and I realized that I was like, why am I so drawn to this? And humans are drawn to symmetry because when you see a symmetrical image, it's like a puzzle's been completed in your mind, and all of a sudden it's visually soothing. And so I'd purposely now wait to try to make these symmetrical moments happen. If someone's walking from the left and the right, at some point people are going to intersect. And if you capture that moment, you've captured just a split second of symmetry, I guess.
And there is also, because of the nature of the London Underground, because of the tiles, because of the doors, it hits points of symmetry. The doors stop at the exact point on the station, and that tends do you know what I mean? And we all kind of know that. We sort of know where to stand. We understand the kind of geometry of the Underground, if you like.
Yes. So train doors will align perfectly. There's a whole chapter in the book about doors aligning at the end of a tunnel, which sounds quite mundane, but again, there's beauty in the mundane. And it's funny, in the book I say as the train doors slow down at the end of the passageway, it's almost like there's a game show in our head with the spinning wheel running down, and we're waiting for the doors to align in that exact position. And it's very pleasing when the doors are at the end of the tunnel, because it's like the train has stopped, especially waiting for us to get on board.
There's also a large element of colour in the book, isn't there? And I mean, there's that dominant London Underground red, which is not quite crimson, which is, it's the colour of the buses, and it's the colour of the train doors, and it's the colour of, but there's also other colours. There's the older greens and the faded kind of off-whites of the tiles and things.
Yeah, the Underground has glorious colours, doesn't it?
It does.
Very evocative colour range. And yeah, that's part of it. The emotions that's created by these dramatic, powerful, unsubtle colours that sort of are plastered throughout the station. Yeah, it's glorious, and I do like to try to highlight some of these. One of my favourites is it's on the front cover of the book. Green Park Station has some lovely red tiles. I think they were more prominent back in the day, but they still have those lovely red tiles, glorious, and I was taking a picture. I was going on a shoot with one of my dancer friends, and she happened to be wearing a red dress. And I was like, "Oh, you look perfect," lined. And then she just waited for the train, and I took the shot, and it looks great.
Do you think most people notice this, or are we just all too busy to get where we're going and thinking about our journey home and what we're having for dinner, or what we haven't got to do at work? Or do you know what I mean? Or do you have to? Does it help to sort of just take a little bit of time and suddenly look around?
I think we all notice it at some level, but it's not something that we necessarily like to discuss. I mean, Londoners that don't normally get into conversation easily anyway. But it wasn't until photography that I started to try to depict and capture beautiful sights. Like nowadays, it fascinates me when there's a glorious red sunset and nobody's stopping to look and capture it. I find it absolutely fascinating. But that was me before I started photography. And with the Underground, as I said before, because there's so many users going through the stations, I love it when I take a picture and it'll be of some obscure passageway in Goodge Street, and suddenly someone who's not a tube nerd or a train geek was to say, "I know where that station is. I love those tiles. I go to work through those stations. I love," and they've never been able to verbally talk about this visual experience that they enjoy every day.
You see, I think almost subconsciously, because most of the time, as you say, we don't talk about it, we don't discuss it, we don't comment upon it or remark upon it, but sort of subconsciously, if you live in this city for any amount of time, and particularly if you use the Underground, although the bus system as well, we realise that the fact that there is such a, and there has been from the very beginning, such a design consciousness on the London Underground in terms of architecture, in terms of design, the tiles, the fittings, the textures, the seat patterns, everything else, that it actually is one of the great civilizing influences of this city. It makes us only minutely more civilized than we otherwise would be. Do you know what I mean? It makes your journeys just that little bit more pleasing.
Yes, I mean, you're talking to a converted crowd here, personally. So I'm not one to say. I mean, I love the Underground and the way that it's presented. I think that its image is great. One of the reasons why I love the Tube Mapper project, and I share it on social media, Instagram, and all of that, is because I think the world should embrace how beautiful it is. It's glorious, and there are some stations you just go through and you see the old signage, like in Hyde Park Corner. You've got some ridiculously old signage from back in the day, and it's just there for people to see. There's no plaque or signs saying anything. It's just there. I think it's one of the great jewels of our city.
Now,
the London Underground.
I suspect we are both London Underground geeks, so you can't deny that. I've always said, and I will stand by this, that if you blindfolded me, I could tell you what line I'm on. Because I think they sound different and they smell different. The Victoria line sounds totally different to the Hammersmith and City, for example, or the Bakerloo. The Northern line has a distinct whiff of a particular whiff of the end. When they put the brakes on, there's a very, very metallic smell. I honestly, and then the new ones smell and sound very, very different. The Elizabeth line is much more sonorous because the gaps are much bigger. It's more hollow and more, and also there's cleaner. It doesn't smell, which is the absence of that smell of the ages. Do you know what I mean? I can do that. I think it isn't just visual clues.
Yes, you're quite right. There are visual smellings and sounds that make you aware of which stations you're at. Robert, that sounds like a challenge that you're going to have to do now.
At some point, yes. In terms of your challenge, how are you on the Tube Mapper project? How far have you got to go?
Okay, so let's see. I'm going to get this wrong, so please tube nerds don't jump at me. There are 272 stations, London Underground, about 113 Overground, and I'll get the others wrong, so I'll stop there. But I've probably captured around 330 stations in total.
Right.
And my aim is basically to capture everything on the tube map. And so I'm just slowly going through. For me, it's just a joy. So if I'm ever feeling uninspired creatively, I just go to a new station and I can try to soak it in and try to capture a moment.
Well, the book is a joy as well. It's called London Underground, Symmetry and Imperfections. And it just makes the world, that subterranean world through which we move, look even more beautiful. Luke, thank you very, very much.
Oh, thank you. Could I quickly throw in that I've got a book signing at the London Transport Museum on the 14th?
Of course you can.
Well, yeah, I'm very excited about it because the first book that I released was during lockdown, so I never got the chance to do anything like that.
Well, and I love the London Transport Museum, so have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you kindly.